Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our August webinar. We wanted to let you know what we do at SFS, Student Financial Solutions Office, and more specifically, how billing works, how you make payments, and how you receive refunds, and more. Next slide. So my name is Tina. I graduated from UCSD with a major in cognitive science in 2022. This is my colleague, Ben.
Hi, everybody. My name's Ben. I am also a UCSD alumni. I majored in biology and minored in music, and I've been working at SFS for about coming close to 5 years now. So happy to be here, and then I'll go ahead and let Tina carry on with the presentation.
All right, so we're going to go over what we do at the Student Financial Solutions Office and let you know more about your billing statements and how payments work, the role of financial aid, and how it differs from student financial solutions, because often these two get confused with each other. And we're going to go over overpayments and how you can get a refund if you do overpay and some best practices for students. At the end of the webinar, we're going to have a live Q&A so you can ask all the questions that you have. You can also put your questions in the Q&A section right now. Okay, so who is the Student Financial Solutions? So we're broken up into different teams. We have the Student Account Services, which Ben and I are a part of, and we handle any client questions, so you can call us or come in person or create a case, and we can help you with your billing questions, refund questions, etc. And then we have the Student Billing Services that oversees student and third-party billing and refunds. So any external sponsors and how they're funding your education. We have a central cashier. So the Try and Pay office is basically the campus's central bank. And if you want to mail in checks or cash or come in person to give your cash or check, you would come to the Try and Pay office, and our cashiers will handle your payment. And we also have the loan administration unit, which handles student loans once you withdraw or graduate from UCSD. So that's much later on. And they answer questions about repaying your loans. We also handle questions about the 1098-T, which is your tuition statement. And we also have the campus cards office. And pretty soon we're going to have the campus cards distribution event. So you would come to the area where the Try and Pay office is, and we hand out campus cards. And during your college years, whenever you need a replacement for a campus card, you would also come to the Try and Pay office. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to get more into your student bill and billing statements. So what will you be billed for? You'll be billed for your tuition and registration fees at the beginning of each term. So for fall, September, for winter, December, and for spring, March. And you'll also be billed for your housing and dining fees quarterly. If you're interested in monthly payments, then you can contact housing. For additional fees like parking, course materials, etc., you would be charged anytime during the academic year. It just depends when you're receiving those services. And each month has its own billing due date, which you can find on our website. Okay, next slide. So what will you be billed for? Again, you'll be billed for your mandatory tuition and registration fees based on your status, whether you're part-time or full-time student. And tuition during the academic year is at a flat rate. So it doesn't matter how many units you're taking. It's a flat rate, sorry. During the summer, it is based on how many units you take. And if you're living on campus, you'd be billed for housing and dining fees quarterly. And you would also have other fees like parking fees, course material charges, depends on what you make payments for. And if you'd like to understand any specific fees, you would contact the department directly. Sometimes students contact us regarding something they've been billed for, but we won't be able to help. The department itself that bills you would be able to help with that. Next slide. So this is an example of a billing statement. This is not exactly what you're going to see. It's just an example. So it shows that the billing statement has description of all the bills that you have, the amount of the charges, your current balance, and how much is due. Sometimes in the current balance, you can see a negative amount, which means there's credit on your account, and you can request a refund. You can also see that there's a statement date. So that indicates that this is not live. So what you see on your billing statement won't change. If you want to see an updated version, you would go on Try and Pay, and on the overview page, you can see an updated balance. Um, and yeah, you can see your current balance and everything. Next slide. Okay, so where do you view your bill? Again, you go on Try and Pay. You can access that through tryandpay.ucsc.edu, and you can see all your billing statements, the current one and the past ones. And you can look at your current account activity and see what balance is due, the transactions you have, and you'll be able to authorize a parent. So sometimes parents call our office, but we would need to have authorization from the student first before we can share financial information with parents. And to send authorization to parents, you would just send a payer invite via Try and Pay. Next slide. Okay, so this is a view of the Try and Pay website, and this specifically is the overview tab. You can see the balance that's due. So that's what I mentioned is the updated balance on your account. This sometimes might be different from your billing statement because this is more updated. You can see a summary of your transactions. You can also see any payment plans that you have down where it says payment plans. So a payment plan that we offer is called Trip, and I'm going to go more into that later. Okay, so I'm going to explain how payments work. So again, for tuition and registration fees, you would pay at the beginning of each term. So for fall 25, it was September 24th. Winter 26, it's um, December 19th, and September 26th is March 20th. And you can see all these due dates on our website. For housing and dining, it's by default quarterly installments, but you can opt in for monthly installments by contacting the HDH. And you could also pay in full at the beginning of the academic year. For other fees, you would be the billing due date would be the same month as the charge. So each month has its own billing due date, and you would be billed by that due date. Okay, next slide. So these are the different payment options that we have. You can pay with e-check, which is basically you put in your bank information, your account, and routing number. You can pay with a credit card or debit card. In that case, you would put in your credit card or debit card number. You can pay with Apple Pay or Google Pay. You can pay with a 529 savings plan, and it just depends on your provider. You can pay with Flywire, Convera, or TransferMate if you're an international student. And you can also pay in person at the Try and Pay office or mail your cash or check to the Try and Pay office. All right, so this is the payment screen. You can see the different options that you have on there, and it shows the payment amount. You can see you can pay with debit card or credit card, with your 529 plan with e-check, or you can make an international payment. Next slide. All right, so these are how long it takes for a payment to be processed. If you make a payment online, it will be processed instantly. If you make a payment in person, if it's before 3 p.m., then it will be the same business day. If it's after 3 p.m. that you make your in-person payment, then it would be processed by the next business day. And for mail payments, it would take 1 to 2 business weeks. For international payments, it would take 7 to 10 days, business days. So this is the address for where you would mail your payments to the Triton Pay office. And please ensure that when you mail a check or cash that you include your name and PID number so we know who it's associated with. And for check payments, they are payable to the UC Regents. Next slide. So these are the differences between each payment. So we always recommend e-check because there's only a 50-cent flat fee. For credit or debit card, Apple Pay, Google Pay, it's a 2.75% fee. And for 529 savings plan, there's a $10 flat fee. And for international payment options, it varies by vendor. All right, next slide. So the consequences for late payments are you can receive a financial hold from our office that could prevent you from adding or dropping courses or enrolling in classes in future quarters. So you do not want to risk that. You could also be dropped from your courses. And there is one drop date during each quarter for courses. So if you do not pay by that drop date, then your courses would be dropped. And yes, our office does not charge any late fees. It's just the holds and dropping of courses. Okay, next slide. So I mentioned TRIP before. It's the Triton Registration Installment Plan, and it helps you break down your quarterly payments into three. So 3 monthly payments. And there is only a $40 enrollment fee for TRIP for each quarter that you are in TRIP. And it does not gain any interest. Next slide. So this is an example of how you can view TRIP. You can view it on payment plans and as you can see, this is just an example of an amount. You can view what your next payment is and when it is due and on what payment you currently are on. So on this screen, you can see that this person made their first payment. So the second payment is due on July 28th. And you can also set up auto pay so you don't forget about payments. Next slide. All right, I'm going to pass it on to Ben.
All right. Thank you, Tina, for that excellent presentation. I'll go ahead and start talking about the role of financial aid when it comes over when it comes over to our office. You can go to the next slide. So the first question that students typically are faced with is who manages my financial aid? And it can get a little bit confusing because our office is named Student Financial Solutions, and then there's another office on campus named Financial Aid and Scholarships Office. So just right off the bat, the office that is in charge of managing your financial aid disbursements, managing your any FAFSA related questions you have, or any amount of aid package questions that you have is going to be the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office. So once you complete your FAFSA application and it's submitted to UCSD, it's basically up to the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office to determine your aid eligibility. They're also going to manage putting together your aid package, dispersing financial aid awards to your Trident Pay account, and making any future adjustments if things on your FAFSA change, or if your class enrollment changes, or if any of your aid conditions change. You can go over to the next slide. And how are you going to receive your financial aid? So the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office is going to disperse financial aid once per term to your student account. What this means is that at the beginning of fall quarter, of winter quarter, of spring quarter, and in the summer sessions, you're going to get one disbursement to your student account with all of the aid packages that you accepted in your financial aid and scholarships portal. This doesn't necessarily exclude the possibility of there being adjustments after the initial disbursement is made, but there is just a one sort of production or one disbursement process that happens per term to each student. Once you've been offered your awards, you're going to need to accept or decline the offered awards via Trident Link. And the way to do that is on your Trident Link tools. You're going to want to click on the financial tools, and there'll be a financial aid section there. You would go ahead and click that, and that's going to be your financial aid portal. Once you're on that portal, it'll basically take you to a sort of table where you can see all of your different awards there, and you can accept or decline any ones that you feel a need to. This is very important. After you accept, there may be additional tasks for you to complete before you can receive the aid. So if you accept, let's say, a scholarship, a grant, or some sort of loan on your financial aid portal, typically what happens is after accepting this, the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office is going to ask for some more documentation on your behalf that would qualify you for that aid. So you would want to submit that as soon as possible to eliminate any chance of there being a delay in terms of getting that aid credited to your account. Once all of these tasks have been completed, so you've accepted or declined all of your aid packages, and you've submitted all of the required documentation, the aid disbursements for each quarter are going to follow the timeline in this next slide. So right here in this chart, and we'll go ahead and upload this slideshow and record it as well so you can reference this, but here are the fall, winter, and spring financial aid disbursement dates. So on the top end, you can see the disbursement is September 16th for fall quarter, December 27th for winter, and spring for March 21st. Now, this is not synonymous with the refund date. So a disbursement just means that the aid is going to credit to the student account, and it's going to deduct from the account balance and therefore reduce the amount that you need to pay for that particular billing statement. The refund date is the date that if you have any excess funds on your account, so let's say you get some financial aid on your account, it pays off the entire account balance, and then you have an overpayment of financial aid on your account left, that's what the refund date is in reference to. So let's say I had $50 on my account. I got $100 worth of aid on the disbursement date. That extra $50, that overpayment of aid, is not going to be cleared to refund until those dates on that bottom end. So it's going to be September 22nd for fall, January 5th for winter, and March 30th for spring. You can go ahead and go over to the next slide. And right here, this is what aid is going to look like when it hits your student account and posts to your billing statement. So as Tina mentioned, you can see the statement summary at the top right is basically just going to show all of the identifying information of that particular billing statement. So we're looking at the October one with the due date of October 18th. And just how to interpret the statement details on the bottom half is it's going to be split up into three sections. You're going to have your previous account balance, you're going to have your current activity, and then the total amount due. The total amount due is always going to be the most important figure that you'd want to keep an eye on because that's basically the amount of your account balance. What we can see in this billing statement is aid crediting. So under current activity, there's the Pathway Grant, Grant and Aid, and the Pell Grant, as well as some e-check payments. And so those first three line items are financial aid packages that were dispersed by the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office. The reason why it's important to always reference the bottom amount is because it's basically a summation of the previous account balance and the current account balance. So in this case, on the last month's billing statement, there was charges of around $11,000. And then in this month's billing statement, which all of the activity is summed up in the current activity section, it basically amounted in credits to the exact amount of the previous account balance. So then what happens is the previous account balance adds into the current account balance, and then you get the total amount due. Another important thing to note is that this is the October statement. So when the September statement comes out, it's going to have all of your tuition fees and whatnot on there, but it's most likely not going to include any financial aid that you receive on your student account for the fall quarter. The reason for that is because billing statements are not updated after they come out. So this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to pay the amount that's referenced on your billing statement. It's just that billing statements are really only generated to keep a record of student accounts as time goes on. So to always know your true account balance, you're going to want to go over to your Tried and Pay portal and then look at the account balance there. As we can see, the financial aid is being credited in the October statement. So even though it was added in September, it's only going to show up in the October statement because it was credited in between the September and October statements. You can go ahead and go over to the next slide. And so what is Student Financial Solutions' role in financial aid? So what our office does is what our main sort of service areas is to support you in terms of any questions that you have regarding your billing, your payments, and refunds. However, we work very closely with the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office to understand how financial aid disbursements are applied to your balance, to refund leftover credits to you, and to process your outside agency scholarships. And so what this means essentially is that financial aid is going to be in charge of putting aid onto your account, of dispersing it to your account. Our office would be in charge of getting anything that's overpaid on the account and sending it to you, or basically refunding it to you. So if you ever have any overpayments of financial aid on your account, that's where our office would come in and help you out with the refund process. Additionally, if you have outside agency scholarships, any scholarships from a third-party agency, we would get the checks, process them, and send them over to the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office. They would basically disperse it to your account, and then we would then refund any leftover credits to you. We also help students and any authorized payers on accounts understand billing, aid application, and refunds. All right. And so here's a quick primer on sending outside agency scholarships. So what our office does is we process external scholarship checks and award letters, which then enables the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office to put them in your aid package and then disperse those funds. So all we do is take the check, process it, and send it over to their office. Mailed scholarships should be sent over to the Tried and Pay office. So the main method that outside agency scholarships are going to use to disperse funds to your account is going to be via check. I believe there's only one scholarship agency that does it via electronic transfer. So chances are you're going to be using check to have the scholarship credited to your account. There's the address on there. When you have this payment mailed, you're going to want to make sure you tell your agency to include your full name and PID number and make sure it's payable to UC Regents. It's always on good rule of thumb is to have more information than you think you need. That way you can ensure that it's credited to your student account. It doesn't get lost in the whole scholarship processing process. And now I'm going to talk quickly about student overpayments and refunds. So what is an overpayment and what is a credit balance? It's basically the same thing. So whenever there's an overpayment on your account, we call that a credit balance. And what an overpayment is when you've made a payment or there's a credit on your account that is more than the total account balance, meaning any charges that you were assessed. Overpayments, yeah, like I said, result in a credit balance on the account. And whenever you have a credit balance on your account, it's going to be a negative number. So sometimes people get confused on this because they'll go to the Tried and Pay and it'll say you owe negative $2,000. It doesn't mean that you owe $2,000. whenever there's a negative in front of your account balance, it signifies that the university owes money to you in the form of a refund. Overpayments are most typically a result of receiving excess financial aid, or having your charges adjusted after you paid in full. So if you paid full-time fees, for example, and then you got approved for part-time status, the registrar's office would put a credit on your account and you'd have a partial amount of your payment refunded. Whenever there's a credit balance, you can go ahead and contact our office and we could help you out with the refund process and then just determine your overall eligibility and help you figure out where it's going to get sent out to. Additionally, overpayments cannot be made online via Trident Pay or in person, and we don't encourage parents or students to make any overpayments on the account. So sometimes we get people that want to pay off their entire school year right up front, but the fastest way that you can pay off your tuition and registration fees is quarterly. So we're not able to accept full year payments upfront from anybody. And yeah, we just don't service overpayments in any way. All right. And then here's what a credit balance is going to look like on your Trident Pay account. So when you go over to your main overview screen, you'll see that your balance on the top right is $0. So usually that figure on the top right where it says balance is going to be the section that tells you what you need to pay, and it's $0. If you look at the additional information section, you can see that it's negative $2,400, which means that you are owed a refund of that amount. And then here's what it's going to look like in your activity detail section. You can see that what it basically does is add up the charges and credits on the account, and then what's left is that negative balance. And how are they received? How are refunds received? Your first action item is requesting a refund from our office using our refund request form, which you can go ahead and find hyperlinked on our website. Once we approve that, we're going to, by default, send a physical check out to your current mailing address. If, however, you enrolled in direct deposit, that then becomes the new default method of refund. We highly recommend direct deposit because it's more secure, it travels faster, you'll get your money quicker, and there's just really no reason not to have it unless you don't have a US banking account. So I would highly recommend enrolling in direct deposit. And once you do that, there's nothing else you need to do for that to be prioritized as your refund method. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. And how long do refunds take to be received? So if you're enrolled in direct deposit at the time of your refund, after it's issued, it's going to take 2 to 3 business days from the issue date for you to receive it. If you're not enrolled in direct deposit, a check is going to be mailed to your current mailing address, and that is going to take about 1 to 2 business weeks from the issue date. Since our office processes different refund types each weekday, we ask that you submit the refund request form and wait for the form approval, and then monitor your school email for updates from our office once we've issued the refund. Next slide. And here are some best practices for students. So here's your action item checklist for before fall quarter starts. These are very important things that you're going to want to make sure are done to ensure everything goes smoothly financially on your end. So number 1, complete your required financial aid tasks. So what that means is you're going to want to go into your financial aid portal and make sure that all of your documentation is submitted. You're going to want to check that probably every week or two if you're expecting financial aid, because the financial aid office can always ask for documentation at any time, and they'll go ahead and email you as well if they're requesting that. Your second action item is to enroll in direct deposit. Very important. That way, if you have refunds, they're sent out to you in a timely and secure manner. Action item 3 is to waive UC SHIP. So UC SHIP is the health insurance, the UCSD's proprietary health insurance, and it's basically a charge of almost $1,000 per quarter. But if you have eligible health insurance, you can waive that charge, and you would just be excluded from using the UC ship services on campus. There's a waiver. You can just look up UC ship or UCSD ship waiver online and fill out the waiver and get that waived. Step number 4 is to opt in for electronic 1098Ts. This way, you reduce the chance of having your 1098T tax form being lost in the mail, and you get it faster than through a physical format as well. And step number 5 is authorize your parents or family members as payers. The reason why this is important is if you have a parent that wants to discuss your account with us, even if um, even if they're your parent, even if they're making payments on your behalf, if you as a student have not authorized payers or parents on your account, we cannot give any information regarding your student account because of a thing called FERPA. So it's very important if you have parents or people that you know would like to discuss your account with their office or make payments on your behalf, you authorize them by going into your Try and Pay. It's really simple. You would just click on your account profile and then send the payer invitation that way. Next slide. All right, and now we're going to move into the live Q&A portion. So we'll go ahead and start answering questions that are in the chat.
It looks like someone's raised their hand. Someone wants to address that. Looks like
Thank you for that, Veronica.
yeah, no
Hello,
problem.
all. My name is Casper. I'm a student supervisor here. I just wanted to address a question that was answered earlier, but I want to make sure that the entire population here attending the webinar also has the same information. So earlier, an attendee had asked that in the webinar prior that Tina had mentioned due dates for December winter quarter being December 19th, and then for the spring quarter being March 20th, both of which are prior to the financial aid distribution dates of December 27th as well as March 21st. So with that in mind, if the due dates are prior to the financial aid disbursement dates, do you pay prior to the disbursement date, or do you pay after the due date? The answer to that is if you're a financial aid recipient, once you've accepted your awards and you've done all those prior steps that we mentioned earlier in the presentation, then you should see pending aid. And it'll show as a unique section on Triton Pay. It'll show on your overview page as well as the activity details section of Triton Pay. And so as it shows pending aid, it'll either give you an adjusted balance due. So let's say you're receiving 4,000 in financial aid for the fall quarter, but your total fall quarter fees are 5,000. That means the adjusted balance would be 1,000, and that's what you would have to pay by that billing due date. So by that September due date for the fall quarter, right? Now, if the adjusted balance is the negative amount, so as we mentioned before, that would be a credit balance, you are likely eligible for a refund. In this case, a refund for a financial aid overpayment. Once aid actually posts to your account, because pending is different than actually being applied, you would have to wait to those disbursement dates to actually see the aid posted. But prior to the aid disbursement date, we show pending aid on the account to allow you the chance to see, okay, do I have an adjusted balance? If I do, is there anything out of pocket that I need to pay for by the billing due date? Or can I just wait for financial aid to pay for it? If your adjusted balance is zero or it's a negative amount, then you won't need to make any payments out of pocket, even if the billing due date is prior to the financial aid disbursement date. And that's because our system is already taking into consideration that pending aid is saying that it'll pay for your current fees in full, or it'll pay for it and then some if it's an overpayment. But I wanted to address that point first because I thought it was important. So thank you to who asked. I open the floor to anyone else if you see any questions that you want to answer in the Q&A.
It looks like someone raised their hand up above, Casper.
Let me see who did. Okay, I do see that hand raised. Do you mind, the person who, or the attendee who raised their hand, if you didn't ask your question already in the Q&A, if you could do that for us? That way, if we see it, we can answer that live. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to know what you're wanting to ask. Sorry about that.
We do have a question about 529 plans. The 529 plan is an educational savings plan that is typically set up by a parent or a grandparent. Years in advance. They add to it throughout their their work career. When you do have time to have an educational expense, they can tip it. They can use that to pay that. You have two ways you can submit that if you've got one. Triton Pay has a 529 payment plan option that has a drop-down menu of all the different providers that are in the network. Not all 529 plans are in the network. If yours does not appear, then you would need to reach out to them individually and whatever their individual requirements are for submitting the payment to the university, you would provide that to them and they would mail us a check. If you have to do a mailed check versus through Triton Pay, Triton Pay is real time. A mailed check will take approximately 10 business days. So you want to be as proactive as you can. The billing statement comes out typically the first business day of the month in September, of any month, but for September for the fall quarter. So you'd want to get that to them immediately so they can get it submitted if you need to have it mailed.
There's a question we got that I'd like to answer live. The question is, when will we see a balance on Triton Pay? So for the fall quarter, you're going to see your tuition and registration fees assessed later this month. And that's so by the time the September billing statement is released within the first week of September, you'll have the fees on your Triton Pay account at that time. And you'll have a relevant billing statement that you can reference as well for your records. And to touch base on a point Ben and Tina brought up earlier, the billing statement is static versus the Triton Pay account itself is dynamic and the information that's presented. So if you always want up-to-date information, it's good to reference your Triton Pay portal itself. But for your records, it's good if you wanted a static document. Your billing statements are available on a monthly basis. So later this month, towards the end of August, you should have your tuition fees charged to your student account, and your housing and dining fees, if you're living on campus, they should be charged prior to the billing statement, which for September, for the fall quarter, that's going to be released on September 3rd, I'm pretty sure. We also happen to have a second webinar on that date, same time as well. So we will go more into detail about those exact charges as well as how that specific billing statement looks at that time as well.
Okay, there are a couple of questions that are similar. They have to do with payment deadlines, payment dates, and due dates. So maybe I can answer them all as in one fell swoop here. We send a billing statement out every single month on typically the first active business day of the month. So it's usually within the first 3 to 5 business days of calendar days of the month, depending on where the weekends fall. You will have each quarter will be in the fall quarter will be in the September statement. The winter quarter will be in the December statement, and the spring quarter will be in the March statement. You do get a statement every month for any activity that's happened on your account. If you've done any bookstore charges, if you're on the payment plan, if you've done some parking permits that are outside of the normal cycle of the registration fee assessment, they will show up on any of those individual months, and you have that month to pay them. there will be a due date for each individual billing statement that comes out. We'll notify anyone that you've authorized through authorized payer. They will all receive the billing statement. However, we don't send out payment reminders or payment notifications. It's what you'll get is the billing statement at the beginning of each month, and once you make a payment, you'll get a payment receipt in the mail through Triton Pay that will come to you that will show that you've made the payment. When you get the registrar's office does send out cancellation for non-payment reminders. That happens right towards cancellation date, which is after the due date. So you do want to pay attention to those. If you do get one, please check your Triton Pay to make sure that there's not an issue with your account and that your payments have gone through as expected.
A question I'd like to answer live real quick. So an attendee had asked, how many days before the due date will we get the billing statement showing us what we owe? If we have to pull money from our 529 saving plan into our personal checking account to have the funds, that could take several days. I agree. So to give an example, the September billing statement will be released September 3rd, which is the billing statement, which should represent tuition and registration fees due for the fall quarter, right? The billing due date for September is the 24th. So that gives you 3 weeks. That gives you 21 days, 21 calendar days. So 15 business days. And that's typically what you can expect that process to look like, is that every month, every month of the quarterly due date. So in winter quarter, it's going to be statement is generated within that first week of December. And by that last week, the billing due date, that's when it is generally. Those dates don't fall on the same day as covered earlier in the webinar, which is why it's crucial if you're a parent to have your student authorize you. So you're also getting those notifications and that you also have access to log into Triton Pay to view that information yourself, whether it be billing statements or the dynamic account balance at that given moment in time. But hopefully that answers your question. And again, for those raising their hands, if you could utilize the Q&A feature on this webinar, we'll allow a few more minutes to answer any last minute questions, whether live or having our back end support doing so.
Casper, can you show them our SFS website with all the information that they can find in terms of how to make payments? There's also a link to all of the current 529 plan electronic vendors are available. I think that might be helpful for them to see kind of the different options, because there was a lot of conversations about international fund transfers, 529. So if you don't mind showing them.
Not at all. I can share my screen in just a moment. That'll show our website. I guess real quick, I will go to the resources screen. So if you still have questions, we'll still be answering them on the back end. But just to move this presentation along, this is our contact info and resources available. So I'd highly recommend writing this down. If you'd like on your end, taking a screenshot. We're also recording this webinar so that we can post the slides as well as the recorded session online. I don't have a date from when that will be available, but hopefully within the very near future, just so you guys have on-demand access to it. But as mentioned before, our website is sfs.ucsd.edu. So if you give me just one moment, I will stop screen sharing and then I'll pull up our webpage and I'll show some of the things that was brought up earlier so that you guys know where to navigate to have those resources available as well. So hopefully you guys can see our webpage, Student Financial Solutions. And so this is the main homepage. Again, the URL is just sfs.ucsd.edu. And so when you get to the main page, you're going to see some basic information such as your, how to gain access to a prior 1098T. It'll also have information for electronically opting in for future 1098T forms, our payment plan that we mentioned earlier, upcoming billing due dates. We can review all the billing due dates here, as well as direct deposit information. Someone had asked earlier if there's a deadline to do so. Short answer is no. You can always enroll in direct deposit for refunds to your student account. So we have direct links and resources for a bunch of different things on our main homepage. But for example, if we wanted to see billing due dates, there's how-to guides on the right for authorized payer information, how to navigate your account, third-party billing for those that are sponsored by a third-party entity, how to enroll in direct deposit. There's information right here on billing due dates. So we can see, for example, the prior month's due dates for summer sessions because we offer that outside of the academic year. And then we see right here, fall 2025 registration tuition fees. Those will be available in a billing statement September 3rd with a due date of September 24th, as mentioned prior. We even have information for those following months as well, October and November. So you aren't blindsided by it. And then we have a bunch of other resources right here, such as how to pay your bill, direct deposit, if you ever have a financial hold on your account, how to access that, refunds like we were just talking about. We have a whole web page about, receiving via direct deposit or mailed paper checks, refund types. We were talking about financial aid refunds right here. You click on this drop down menu. We've got some relevant details. And if you had further questions as a student, you can just submit a ticket to us through the services and support portal where we can respond to you, follow up. Also, you might have noticed we have this virtual assistant down here. You can utilize that as well. That's our current office's chatbot support. So if you ever have any questions, you can just open that up down here and you can type a question there. Just in case it's outside of business hours and you would like some help, this is also an option for you as well. But we have section on campus cards as covered before in our webinar. And then university loans, third-party billing, our cashier services, like how to pay in person at our office. And then we have Triton Pay tutorials if you wanted to watch specific videos on how to do certain things within it before you have a balance. So all of that is available here as well. And then, of course, about us, our business hours, how to contact us, all that information. So if you want to get in touch with us, have that information right here as well. So, and then we have additional resource tab over here. We got a lot of information on our website. So I'd highly recommend after this webinar, if we didn't answer your question, you can try referencing our website. We have knowledge base articles on the services support portal. And then you can try your luck at this chatbot service over here. See if that helps out. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick, navigate back to the presentation. And then if anyone has any other questions they want to answer live, they can do so real quick.
Pachira, are you aware of any housing, or Jenny, are there any housing webinars that will be coming up?
We don't have any housing webinar for now, but we might be have some like in the future. You can check our like housing portal, so we'll
Okay.
post over there. Yes.
Do you want to share the link? Because I think someone asked about they wanted to know more information about housing payment plans and dining. Is there like a website they can review the information?
Yeah. So you can go to housing, HDH housing, wait a second. HDH, okay, let me type over there. So it's HDHUG housing.ucsd.edu.
Thank you.
All right, we'll have the Q&A open for just a few more minutes. I see that it's dying down a bit. So want to see if we can address any last minute questions before we conclude this webinar. And again, we'll have a follow-up webinar in September on September 3rd. We'll make sure to send additional communications out. So in that session, we'll do a deeper dive into exact charges, as well as show you guys what an actual billing statement is going to look like at that point in time, because charges for tuition registration would have been assessed at that time, as well as housing and dining if you're living on campus. So I'm sure that'll be helpful for you all. It'll be at the same time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on September 3rd. So to answer this one live real quick, we had a question come in. How can I connect or notify my parent for the billing statement? That's a good question. So on the Triton Pay portal, on the one of the tabs should be my account. It should be the top first option on the top left of Triton Pay. So let me see if I can actually pull up a slide of a screenshot that we had earlier in the presentation, just so you can better visualize that. Yeah. So in this example screenshot, if you were to go to my account above the overview page, there would be a section for you to send a payer invite. And that is basically you sending them an ability, like giving them the option to become an authorized payer. All you would need is your parents' first, their last name, as well as their email address. That would send the parent then instructions to said email address on how to set up their password. Their username should just be the email address that was used to sign them up as an authorized payer. And after they complete all that, they would have access to log into Triton Pay with their own login credentials. They don't have to use your login credentials to get access. They would also be able to receive billing statement notifications through their email address, as well as sign up for SMS, so text message billing notices. And additionally, they can contact our office, speak with us directly about your student account without needing you to do it on their behalf or anything like that. But that part's crucial because, as it was mentioned earlier by Ben, if you're a student and you're registered here, even if your parents paying your bill, or even if you're 18 or younger than 18, then as long as you're a registered student here, by federal law, we can't disclose account details unless your parent is authorized. So that's how you would do that. And I can make sure that we demo that in the September webinar as well, if you all need that. All right, I'll go ahead and answer this last question and then we can wrap up here. Uh, Someone is asking, can I pay my fees days before the billing due date? The answer is yes, and that might be smarter. If you pay it before the billing due date, if you're able to, then you don't need to stress about the billing due date when it comes up. The billing due date isn't telling you you only have that day to pay. You can make a payment prior to it as long as the balance is made available on your student account. And so I would recommend beginning of September, whenever the September billing statement is made available on the 3rd, to log into your Triton Pay account. And if you haven't authorized a payer by then, to authorize your parents as well if they would like access and you would like them to have access so that you all can see your balance and see what's owed. If you're receiving financial aid, you should also see your pending aid at that point in time so that you know the adjusted balance that you would have to pay, if at all, prior to the due date of the 24th for the fall quarter. And if you're able to pay and you would like to pay before the billing due date, you're more than welcome to. I would just make sure you pay by that due date. Because again, as we covered earlier in the webinar, failure to pay by the billing due date could result in course cancellation later by the late registration fee payment deadline. All right. I'm going to answer this one last question and we can end it here. Someone had asked, when will we receive reminders or will we receive reminders for upcoming payment due dates? And the answer is, if you're the student, yes. We send out email communications whenever the billing statement is made available. Registrar's office also sends email communications prior to cancellation dates if your tuition fees and other mandatory fees aren't paid by that quarterly due date. Additionally, if you are the parent of a student, as long as the student authorizes you through Triton Pay, you'll also receive email notices, same as the student. So yes, we make sure that we send out those communications whenever billing statements are made available at the beginning of every month, and then which lets you know to check your Triton Pay account. And once you check your Triton Pay account, it shows when the billing due date is on there as well on the overview page. It shows you the amount due. There's a section for you to make a payment, all that jazz. And if you're an authorized payer or you are the student of the account and you have any questions, again, you're more than welcome to contact our office. We can help you with general billing payment questions, anything like that. So thank you all so much for attending our webinar today. It was supposed to be a high-level overview, so I hope we address some general questions, but if you have specifics, please utilize the resources included on this webpage here, or sorry, this presentation slide. Like I said earlier, slide deck as well as the recording will be made available at a later date so that you can watch on demand. And then if reviewing our website, knowledge base articles, Instagram, whatever you may want to reference doesn't answer your question, again, you're more than welcome to contact us. So thank you all so much and enjoy the rest of your day, morning, evening.